What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another Bucks on Deck podcast episode. Back after a little miniature break. Nola had himself a nice little vacation, and I kind of got lazy and just didn't record one by myself on there. So we're back. We're back, and with me as always, Nola Jeffy. Nola, what's going on? How's the vacation?
It was good. I haven't been out that way in quite some time, so got to see some sights. Got to see a baseball game, football game.
Yep. That's pretty cool.
It's good.
It's good. And so we also pushed back the podcast an extra day as well. We figured to line it up a little bit better with the deadline, so that way we can talk completely about it. I know Nola's feels a very, very certain way about how the deadline went. So I know he's excited to get into things. So I guess we'll go ahead and just dive into it. The Pirates were fairly busy. They made a couple, they started like a day or so early with it, made another trade the day before, and then they've made a handful the day of the deadline. So I guess I figure we'll just kind of go trade by trade, give our thoughts, and then if you want to go on a crazy tangent at the end, like recapping the whole thing, we can do that. How's that sound?
Luckily, it's been a couple hours, so
we cooled down a little bit.
Probably, I think so.
We'll find out. All right. So the first trade we'll get started with with the Boston Red Sox traded Quinn Priester for Dick York, former first round pick, former top 100 prospect, second baseman. Kind of fits the mold of the Ben Cherington thing, high contact, maybe not. I don't think he has like below average power, but it's probably more along like the average-ish power wise.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly a second baseman. He has played some in left field this year. So kick it out for us, Nola. What's your early thoughts on that trade?
That one, I really liked that one. Just because, and I know other people have been parroting it, that, they lacked, upper level bats. So that in itself is a good get. Obviously, no MLB experience yet, only really a handful of at-bats and games in AAA as it is. He had fallen kind of on, well, I don't want to say hard times, but he had struggled for a couple of years after he was like a top 100 prospect, but Corey did that breakdown himself, and then pretty drastic swing changes, at least in his load and everything. And I know I saw that. I had never really paid that much attention to know it, but when I saw that first setup, his old setup, it was like, why was anybody letting him do that in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
how was he a first round pick with that?
He was bringing his hands up like this. I was like, what is he doing? But yeah, no, that one. And Priester he was pretty much already an odd man out as it was. And he was going to be even more likely of an odd man out come next year. So I know there was mention that Robert Murray had mentioned that there were actually quite a few teams interested in him. But all in all, good get. I like it. And then with the little bit of AAA time, there is some data on him, and it looks pretty good. The max EV's only 109.1 miles per hour. Not great, but his 90th percentile is 105.7 and a 91.7 average EV. Hitting it, hard hit percentage, 47.7%. So if he can maintain that kind of stuff, the WOBA's great. Expected WOBA, so.
Yeah, looking at the numbers there, and like I love the pickup. I was a really big Nick York guy for the last couple of years, going through the struggles and stuff like that. And it's good seeing him kind of find his groove and stuff like that this year and stuff. So I'm excited to get him in the system. But like the looking at some like the metrics and all that, very similar to an extent to like what Nick Gonzalez was doing in AAA, but with less chase, and higher exit velocity. So Nick Gonzalez was hitting the ball a lot harder, or a lot better against like fastballs and stuff like that. Like he was destroying them, and he's still destroying them pretty much in the majors. But seems more like a more well-rounded game. As far as hitting wise, obviously Gonzalez he's made a lot of improvements defensively at second. So it'll be interesting. Like I really like the trade too. Like you said, Priester's kind of the odd man out now at this point. He's basically relegated to the bullpen here, and even as like I was intrigued by maybe Priester working out of the bullpen because like he put up like really good numbers like the first time through. It was like really the second and third time through that really got him. So I was kind of intrigued by it, and then like against the Diamondbacks, it just didn't look pretty at all. So it wouldn't surprise me if another team like was able to do some stuff maybe to help him with it. Like I was thinking about it the other day, maybe they just have him drop everything but like the sinker and slider, and we're going to work you in the bullpen. And you just do these, and maybe we'll mix in something. I know you've been like banging the table pretty hard for him to like pick up like a cutter or something like that too. So,
but
previously,
in part, I think that was also more Corey, but
okay,
with the cutter aspect, but at least going heavy sinker slider. I mean, especially if he would move to the bullpen. I mean, in some ways, maybe he'll just become a Clay Holmes for the Red Sox.
I mean, but so like I mean, I could see a scenario like, okay, well, we're going to throw you like 1 to 2 innings, and you're only going to throw sinker sliders here, and then maybe next in the off season they'll tell him to either work on like a new pitch or work on something and then they'll maybe come back in next year and give him a shot elsewhere. I mean, he's in AAA now, so I mean, I'm sure he'll just start there. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. But Nick York, he'll need to be added to the 40-man this offseason. He's Rule 5 eligible. I'm sure that's an easy add for the Pirates at that point. Wouldn't surprise me if we see him at some point by the end of the year, though, right? I would think.
I'd imagine.
Especially depending on Nick Gonzalez, the health.
Yeah.
So we're off to a good start here.
Yeah. Everyone happy.
Everyone happy so far. I think the next one, too, is probably where things started going downhill for you, I'd imagine, judging off like your responses to it. So I think it was last night, Pirates announced that they traded left-handed pitcher Luis Peralta to the Rockies for another left-handed pitcher, Jalen Beeks. I'll go and let you kick off on this one now because I'm.
I guess
this one was interesting to me.
I mean, I guess at least in that I got 24 hours on that one at this point, but I don't know. It didn't really make much sense to me. I guess to some regard, you can go with the whole, well, they needed a left-hander, and it's like, okay, I guess to some degree. I mean, if you're setting your ways that Chapman's your 8th guy, he's not pitching at any other moment other than the 8th inning, whatever. But it just, to me, it wasn't a huge necessity. Bullpen wasn't. Even before we started this recording, I made a comment about Dennis Santana. He's given up 1 earned run in the entire month of July, and that's the only run he's given up since the 6 he gave up in Colorado. And even the appearance prior to that, he didn't give up a run. So he's been good. Kyle Nicholas has been good. Majinski, unfortunately, just went on the IL. So I guess for a little bit, you can say that's kind of needed. Funny enough, the reliever that's probably been the worst is David Bednar. Halderman's been a little sketchy here and there, but he's got the job done. And then obviously Peralta, I mean, it was only in AA, not even 10 innings, but I mean, the way he was looking and the stuff looked phenomenal. I mean, he had, even going up into AA, he had a 35% K percentage. Lots of swings and misses. Nobody could really square him up. It just, at that point, I was like, if we're talking a lefty specialist, which don't look up Beeks' numbers against right-handers. It's not pretty. If we wanted a left-handed specialist for like a last minute in the bullpen, at that point, I probably would have just called up Peralta.
Yeah. I don't. So, like in most scenarios, losing a double-A reliever, regardless of what his numbers look like, you probably don't make too much of a fuss about it.
Right.
In most cases. But Beeks is a rental, so you get only a couple months of him. He is better than Josh Fleming. Like I'll get this out of the way because like I posted like their comparison, like their Savant pages, and yeah, Beeks is better than Fleming, but I don't think he's better than Josh Fleming and what Luis Peralta potentially could have given you as well. Like if you look at a lot of their numbers this year, and they're close. They're close. Beeks has a 0.3 WAR on Fangraphs. Fleming's like at an even 0. So they're both basically relief or replacement level relievers. Their xFIP is everything's close. It's close. It's not a massive upgrade that you're getting, and then you kind of give up a guy who's kind of taking a huge step forward and stuff like that. Peralta is a guy that we've been watching in the last couple of years, down in Bradenton and stuff like that. And we've always watched him and like, well, he could be really good if the right things kind of clicked. And they tossed him in the bullpen and everything kind of clicked.
Yeah. If he found any kind of control.
Yeah, any kind of semblance of control. Like this guy has potential. And he's shown that. Like it's a weird. I think I'm more the whole scenario. Like if it was just straight up that they traded Peralta for Beeks, then like yeah, sure. But when they had someone who was like Fleming, who again isn't as good as Beeks, but Beeks isn't that much better than him. I feel like it was just like the scenario was just kind of weird, and I was taken back by that. In the end,
yeah, I mean obviously the reliever market was a little hot this year, but for 2 months of Beeks,
yeah, and I don't think, and like you can see the numbers here that it's, and I do wonder too, like if maybe that they made the trade last night because they knew that Majinski was heading to the injured list, because I remember in like the broadcast that they mentioned that Majinski and Nicholas had done fairly well against lefties. And it's because they were kind of debating on the broadcast whether or not the Pirates should look for another lefty. And they said, well, worst case scenario, Majinski and Nicholas have done pretty good against them. Maybe they could just make it by without adding another lefty. Yeah. But now you lose Majinski, so that's one of your guys that you're down now. And now they're kind of looking for a trade. Like you said, it was a hot market for relief pitchers, so they kind of had to give up something maybe that they didn't want to, or more maybe than in most years for a rental. And I mean, in the end, it's a double A reliever. And like I make a point of it too that like I've been burned so many times by lower level relievers kind of thing that like I mean we'll see, whatever. And he's going to Colorado too, so you never know. Maybe he just goes there and just gets beat to hell, and then we're just kind of like, okay, well, and we just forget.
I mean, it's that is highly plausible just because of the whole pitching in Colorado kind of kills spin and everything, and he's a up in the zone pitcher, so
yeah,
it's possible.
Which and too, like the control's gotten better, but I mean, he's still walking like I think it was like. Was it like 11-12% of hitters too? So like the control
I think it was it was 12%. I think in Greensboro, and it had gone down to 8%. But I mean, again, only 9.2 innings in Double A. So
so this one probably in the end, it's probably just whatever at this point.
Yeah,
they're looking to win, and if 2 months of him, if 2 months of Beeks helps, then like it's a Double A relief. The next one, probably don't need to spend too much time on this one, was they got another lefty, Josh Walker, from the Mets, and they gave up a DSL pitcher, Nicholas Carano. And I mean, Carano had 36 strikeouts in 21 innings, but he also walked 17. So he's a DSL pitcher. And Walker... he's the kind of pitcher that the Pirates like, really big extension guy. Fastball graded out a little above average on Fangraphs on the Stuff Plus 104. The curveball was really bad. I mean, he has options, so I feel like this is just kind of like a depth thing. It helps the Indy bullpen, and then if they need any more help in the majors, they already have another lefty there.
This is almost like the equivalent of the spring training when they went on that run of because Fleming, Plasmeyer, and just started grabbing every lefty imaginable.
Yeah. So that one's probably a quick one. We probably don't have to spend too much on it. If Walker's up in the majors at any point, I'd imagine it's to give someone a break or someone got hurt kind of thing. Other than that, I would just imagine he finishes the year with Indy. Maybe comes up with the September call up with the extra roster spot if they don't have anyone else. So.
And the Indy run for the playoffs.
There we go.
And they won Tuesday evening.
They did. It's at least 7 in a row because they swept Iowa last week.
Mm-hmm.
But next, the big trade. This is the big move that everyone was waiting for. Pirates needed offense, so they got a player with a .1 WAR in Brian De La Cruz.
Woohoo!
And in exchange, going to the Marlins, Jung Shuk Shim and Garrett Forster. Sorry, Corey. Poor Corey. I'll go ahead.
Garrett Forster.
Yeah, poor Garrett Forster. He got promoted the same day he got traded. So they're like, come on to Greensboro. We're going to finally put you in Greensboro. But really, we're just going to trade you.
I turned on the game today like, oh, man, I'll get to watch Garrett Forster finally playing high A, and he's gone.
He's done. All right. So I'll go ahead and let you lead on the De La Cruz thing, and I'll kind of follow up with anything else.
Yeah. I mean, he was someone that had been mentioned to them, I guess, a couple weeks ago, along with Jazz Chisholm, and people were hyping it up. Like, oh, yeah, De La Cruz, 18 home runs. And I was like, cool. Which I think, I think Rosati even made a comment of it during the NS9 stream. If all games played at PNC, it would be 14 home runs. But surprisingly, he's actually a below-average hitter against right-handers. Only a 92 WRC plus, with a 104 WRC plus against lefties. But obviously, majority of his home runs, 14 of the 18, have come against right-handers as a righty bat. But I mean, he's pretty much carried his 2 full seasons, a sub 300 on base percentage. Doesn't walk much, strikes out like 25% of the time. And on top of that, he's not a good defender. And
who needs to play defense?
That was already a huge hole for them. Like, I don't know. And at least like looking at the TJ stats, I mean, he's not that unlucky. His WOBA is a 303 with an expected WOBA of 328. He does have a pretty good hard hitting percentage, but surprisingly, I mean, his EVs aren't that great, really. His average is above average, but his 90th is like 104.3, max at 110.5, which honestly was kind of surprising to me because they talk about him being this slugger, and I thought there'd be a little more thump. But yeah, I mean, his contact isn't great. And I don't know. The point other people have made is that does it make them better now? Probably. Just because some of the other options were just that bad at this point. But you have him for 3.5 years. We've talked at length in articles, on podcasts, tweets that the Pirates' hitting development isn't very fantastic. So, like, if I think back to like Joey Bart, I remember I was saying to y'all in spring training, because there had been mention about getting Joey Bart. I think just in rumblings here and there. And I remember looking at his, I think it was a spring training data. And I was like, I don't know. I think he might be turning a corner. And then a couple months later, they get him, and he's been great. I don't know if I want to say great, but he's been perfectly fine. And the thing with Cruz is, it kind of is what he is.
Yeah. So I was looking at this, and I did like a full-on deadline recap for an article, and I mean, you look at it, the good is 37 home runs the last 2 years, which the Pirates need that. His 18 home runs this year is tied with Brian Reynolds. So like they're getting on paper, they're getting. This is one of the situations too, and I know we've talked about it too, like over the last couple of years, like when first base was like a black hole for them, or like even like catcher and stuff like that. You almost improved by default because it was so hard to do any worse than what they had at times. And like Jack Sawinski has a -1 WAR, a 64 WRC plus. Edward Oliveri is a negative 0.8 WAR, a 75 WRC plus. Like it's the Pirates would have had to actively gone out there and got someone worse, like intentionally, to actually make them like a worse team than they are now. Like obviously, if you're going to go out there, you're going to at least go out there and get someone who ends up like he's a replacement level player. And the only thing is, a replacement level player is better than what they've been putting out there. So I think they improve by default. I just don't know if it's bigger picture, and I'm not even talking about next year. Next year's next year. They can do stuff in the offseason to make them better. But bigger picture, does this actually, the 18 home runs are nice, but if he's hitting 18 home runs, but yet he's still grading out as like a below average hitter or someone who a replacement level guy, like that should be telling you something. Like there's more than just the home runs there, and like the chase rate is really bad, the whiff rate is really bad. He doesn't walk, he strikes out. Like when you look at like Jack Sawinski last year, like he never chased. He walked a lot. It was like the whiff issues, the whiffs and the strikeouts and all that stuff. Like him not chasing, like saved him and put him in a position to where like he didn't like crater until like this year. And
well, that's right. Yeah, I mean,
he's gonna have that. Like he chases a lot, so like it. I don't know. The Pirates needed to make a trade. They needed to get some offense. He helps you by default because he's a better hitter than, or he's providing more value than the other guys. It's just in the end, he's a replacement level player. The Pirates should be able to go out on the waiver wire pretty technically and pull someone who can come close to his kind of value.
Which, and I thought, I mean, that's go back to Sawinski. The thing was, I mean, he was batting, I don't even remember, like 212 last year or something. But he had on base percentage of like 350, 360 because he walked so much. Mm-hmm. Whereas, again, De La Cruz isn't even getting on base 30% of the time.
Yeah.
And, I'd say people, they're, you sabermetric nerds and people are like, I don't care about counting stats. And, I mean, 18 home runs, cool. In a perfect world, if they needed to get like an average hitter to throw a DH, cool. But obviously that's not going to happen here because, I mean, Kutch isn't going anywhere. And which is going to be a huge topic probably come the offseason. But, but then like bringing up his RBIs, I think Mackey made a tweet about it. Like he had 78 or 80 or something last year. And Reynolds is the only person that's smashed those RBI numbers since Bell back in like 2019, and I'm not saying RBIs are worthless, but in a lot of cases, it's kind of a stat that's a matter of opportunity. And I mean, the guy, Miami's been bad for offense.
Didn't Miami make the wild card last year?
I believe so, and I mean he was batting.
So of course he's going to have
in the heart of the order.
The opportunities for a better team.
Yeah, and he was in the heart of the order.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be getting RBIs. I mean, Josh Bell had 20 home runs and over 70 RBIs, and I think even people were like, no, we don't want him back. It's just the Pirates lineup as a whole has been so bad, over the past couple of years. But I mean, yeah, even a guy that's average is gonna have opportunities to get RBIs. And I always love to think back to Casey McGee, who had that one year had 12 home runs, but he had 105 RBIs.
Yeah, I think a replacement level player should not be stepping into the starting lineup of a wild card team, and people saying it makes the team that much better.
Well, and that's
it shouldn't. Like a wild card team adding a replacement level player, they're bringing him in to platoon a position, or he's going to be a really good bat off the bench. No, the Pirates are plugging him in probably I would imagine right field to be their everyday right fielder. It just it does. It's like I said, by default it makes them better. I just don't know if it makes them that much better compared to the other teams. And maybe it is. Maybe it will be enough. Maybe it will be enough. They need offense, and he's certainly going to provide, in theory, more offense than what was being generated. The other two options, they're providing negative value. So even by providing zero value, that's more than negative. I just don't know if this is going to be the kind of move that pushes them over the edge like some will. It too.
Yeah. Which to your one point, I was going to say something earlier today, prior to getting him, when name after name was falling off the table, and people were finally, I think his name got mentioned finally again, and so Pirates Twitter was going crazy with everyone saying we should get him, and everyone, he's an upgrade over what they have, and it's just, I was going to say something, I ended up not tweeting it, but just along the lines of this is just where the state of the bats and offense is, that it's been so bad that fans are clamoring for Brian De La Cruz as a big pickup. And it's look, I hope he goes on a tear. I hope he I think Jazz hit 2 home runs for Yankees the other day. Arias got out and he started hitting for the Padres again. There was somebody else who I think hit a home run today that they just traded. And maybe he gets out of Miami, is reinvigorated, and starts popping off. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But no. The bar is so low. The bar is just so low.
That's really what it comes down to. The bar was set so low that it was so easy to surpass it, that when we finally get into, and I keep hearing, the Pirates have a pretty tough stretch of games coming up. When you get down into facing the teams that you're going to be fighting for this wild card spot with, the fact that the bar was so low will become a lot more evident once we start playing those pretty much other teams that are fighting for the playoff spot. So I don't know. What did you think about Shim and Forster being included in the deal?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we've been very high on Shim. Mm-hmm. But even then, most of that is just based off of Bird's few clips reporting. scouting reports, but he hasn't been throwing. I mean, this is his second season. He hasn't really thrown, so
8 innings. He's thrown 8 innings in 2 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then there's the thing. I guess he didn't pitch much, if at all, his last year in Korea either. So, like it's been injury after injury with him. And I mean, Forster's nice, and Forster he kind of came on strong the last couple games before he got promoted. But even then, like I was when we went to go like do the final rankings or the next time rankings, I kind of feel like he was gonna get hit pretty hard by me at least. Like it just didn't. He struggles against timing some fastballs and like I don't know. I'm good with it. Like those two seem like the perfect two to just okay.
Yeah, I mean,
take them if you make something of them. Sure, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean Forster fell in line again with that whole like contact over power type guy, but there was projectable power still in the bat. But at this point, he was just a guy that walked a lot, got hit a lot, and there's still a lot of development to be had. And at least this way, we're not going to have to worry about the Greensboro hype bump. So
yeah, and even then, like the way he swings, like his thing and all that stuff, I don't think he would have taken advantage of Greensboro that much. Like he hits the ball hard a lot. Like his hard hit rates were pretty good, but like the upper echelon like of his power, like the max velo wasn't good. The 90th percentile wasn't great either. Like he had barely fringe average power, if that. Like I probably would have been okay with putting like a 45 on his power for his power grade at that point. So,
which would have been great for a catcher, right?
Yeah, which you could like watching him play this year. I can see why they were trying out the catcher thing, just because like the bat would be a lot more valuable at behind the plate than it would have been at first. And he was going to be a first baseman. He wasn't going to play third. So
yeah,
okay, yeah, it made sense. And Shim, he had like he could have just as easily been up there with the rest of the pitching prospects, but like you got to pitch. We saw the same thing with Brennan Malone. You got to pitch. You don't pitch, yeah. And he was going to be 20. I think he was going to be 20 by the end of the year if he's not already 20. And only eight innings, none in Bradenton. Yeah. For where they got, I mean, I guess that does play too. He's a replacement level hitter, so you didn't have to give up anything too big for him.
No. So
yeah,
it's a wash, really, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, like even if they have to go out and get someone else to play right field next year, and De La Cruz is the DH or some sort of platoon guy or something like that, I still think they walked out okay with what they gave up.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the one thing I'll throw in real quick too. I mean, even though we haven't gone over the last couple, but I know I made the comment to where my only thing is, I mean, again, it's going to come down to how another organization views the Pirates prospects. But I'm like, man, why couldn't they have just packaged McAdoo, Riley, Shim, all those guys together and just gotten Elaine Thomas instead?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Which, yeah. And then that other thing I said, it's this trade deadline kind of felt similar to the way they target free agency, to where rather than just taking the resources and being like, let's get this one good guy or two good guys, we're just going to spread it around.
Yeah. Yep.
And hope for the best.
Yep. You end up with basically right now so far the players we've talked about, 3 replacement level players. That's it. At best, you're getting replacement level. And maybe that, I mean, yeah, sure. Keep them until something else comes around.
The rotation and bullpen is dirty, so it might be all they need.
Yeah. Who knows? All right, so next trade. This one, at first it was kind of like, damn, didn't see that coming. And then you kind of like, well, this guy's kind of perfect for what Ben Cherington goes after. And then you saw the return, what they sent, and then you're like, wait, hold up. They made a trade with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Because of course they did.
Yeah. Not for Vlad Jr. like everyone else thought it was going to be. They get Isaiah Kiner Falefa. And in exchange, Falefa. In exchange, they send Charles McAdoo. And IKF, we'll just go with that. Super utility guy. Plays pretty much everywhere. I think he came to the majors. He was a catcher to start. And then he just kind of started bouncing around everywhere. He's a really good fielder. Defensive run saves this year, positive at second, short, third base. He's played the outfield. And but then you look at the hitting thing, and like he's having a career year hitting, and it's like okay. I think it's like WRC plus is like 116 or something like that. Like this is the first year that he's batting over. He has an OPS of over 700. So he's. I don't know. Like they said it on the NS9 thing earlier too, but it makes me. He's what they wanted Jared Triolo to be. Kind of a guy who can play everywhere and give you a little bit. Like he's not going to strike. Like their strikeout rates are incredible. The contact rates are great. Like he's going to put the ball in play. It's just he doesn't impact the ball with authority, and we've all seen the limitations of players with that profile.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And then you give up the best your best performing hitting prospect in exchange for it.
Not only best performing hitting prospect, like the one hitting prospect where it's like, oh, maybe they're finally gonna break through with one, and I guess the devil's advocate part of me, it's not really a great excuse, but was that considering previous years, like what we went through with Frazier, Gorski, and these other hitters, that they lit up Greensboro, they carried that hot streak to Altoona, mashed, and then fell apart after. I mean, really, even Andy Rodriguez, I mean, he tore through like 5 levels. I mean, I'm embellishing a bit. And then last year in Indy, I mean, his hitting profile was kind of okay. It wasn't that great before his call-up. But so part of me is like, maybe they were just like, look, this is the moment. We need to, before he comes back down to earth, we need to capitalize on it.
I will say, what is it? They get an extra year of IKF. Like he's signed through next year too. So this isn't a rental. So and it's for as far as like super utility guys out on the market of his value. I think the AAV for him is like 7.5 or something like that.
7.5, but I'd have to look it up. They got some cash thrown back.
Okay.
I know. I've seen Ethan post about it, and I sent it to y'all. Because they got cash back for Perez. Okay. Yeah, it was like a little over $2.2 million.
Okay. I mean, and I'm sure that's what kind of upped it to where they're kind of having to throw in Charles McAdoo. Like if there's no money involved, maybe it's someone not as prominent for him. But I mean, it fills a need. It gives someone. I don't know. This is just another thing too. Like I like the point you made with that too. Maybe they're just Charles McAdoo. The chase rate, inflated over 30% right now in Altoona. The contact rates come down a little bit. he struggled against some breaking pitches and stuff like that. There's been some kind of like, okay, well, maybe we should like pump the brakes at least for a little bit to see how he finishes the year before we like re-buy into him, kind of thing. So maybe the Pirates saw that and like you said, let's sell high on the guy, get someone who can help the major league team out. Again, it's just the limitations with the hitting kind of thing.
And that's the thing that's kind of funny, ironically, is like to me, IKF kind of feels like Adam Frazier on crack.
Yeah.
Like I forget which year it was. 21? Did they trade him or 2020?
I believe so, yeah.
And he was having that balling year, and the second base market wasn't that hot, and I think he had a year and a half left, and we're like, oh man. Well, me personally, I was like, oh man, they're gonna get a haul back for him, and the return ended up being okay, in part because it's like, us, metric nerds, we, see these numbers and like he's massively outplaying his metrics right now. Like him, his WOBA is 3.26 with an expected WOBA of 2.83. Like that ain't great. That ain't good. So you're gonna have to hope he rides this hot streak through the rest of the year, or then if he comes back down to earth a bit, regresses at that point, then you're just relying on the defense, which then he's just a more expensive Jared Triolo, but a little more established hitter. Which again, ironically, Jared Triolo, everyone, even with his heightened batting average balls in play last year, everyone was like, "Oh no, he's the dude," and then this year happened.
I think the question's going to be like, we know he's going to regress. Like it's everything's there for some sort of regression. It's how hard it's going to be, and then it's another improvement by default thing, because like the production they were getting out of Triolo was pretty bad. Like defensively he was doing fine. Defensively he's doing fine. There's no complaints. Zero complaints with him defensively. I don't know what the metrics and all that were saying about like him at each position and all that stuff. I would imagine IKF has. So yeah, they love it. It's another thing that like if he regresses too much, just how much of an upgrade is that going to be at that point? Like at this current moment, if he keeps riding this out for the rest of the year, this is an incredible upgrade. This is a way positive upgrade. But if he starts coming back down, like how far down until you start saying, man, we're paying $7.5 million for Jared Triolo, for slightly better Jared Triolo. So I don't know. Well, that's the one thing we'll have to wait and see. I don't mind it. I like the trade. Like losing McAdoo was kind of like, oh, man, like it looked like we were finally cooking with some hitting prospects in the system. But like, I mean, we don't know. Like it was like a month or two, like barely 2 months or something like that he's been in Double-A. Like if you can sell high on a guy for an established major leaguer that like can bounce around and play everything, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah,
it's just long term. I'll just have to watch about when the hitting does come back down to earth a bit, like how much of a difference in production is he given than Triolo? At least offensively, because we know defensively, he'll I'm sure he grades out higher defensively in more positions.
Which, and I mean, to that regard, I mean, we've obviously gone on enough about how bad, a lot of the players on this team are defensively. I mean, and even just moments ago, Brian Delia Cruz. So, I mean, so some days, I mean, particularly, Gonzalez when he comes back in what will probably be like a month, put De La Cruz at DH, IKF, and right field, and Gonzalez at second, who's been surprisingly a pretty good defender at second.
Yeah. looks like he's been grading out positively everywhere. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that extra work at shortstop and third base kind of helped him on there. But, yeah, I don't hate this one. It's fine. It's fine. You get an experienced major league super utility backup.
Yeah.
So the whole conversation. So like the next trade, we're gonna get a couple left on here. Martin Perez sent to the Padres, which as soon as I heard it was to the Padres, I knew it was either going to be a complex or a DSL player.
Ethan Salas.
That would have been insane.
That would have been a heist.
Yeah. So Pirates get Ronaldez Jimenez, 18-year-old pitcher, 6 innings pitched, 8 innings, or 8 strikeouts in 6 innings this year, only 1 earned run. Couldn't find anything else on him at this point.
Yeah, well, I think he's a left-hander?
Yeah, he's a lefty.
Like 5'11".
Yep.
Buck something.
Yeah. All the info I was able to get on him.
I went to like the 2023 Padres International signing reviews and stuff like that, and nothing. But according to DK, the Pirates coveted him, so there's that.
I mean, they know their pitchers, right? So, well, yeah, and I think there's just one left now, right? The good old prospect trade. You know,
which
people are talking about.
They did get also another Ethan. They did get cash for or gave cash with Perez. So
okay,
a little over $1.3 million.
I have to go through read everything Ethan's put out to see where they're at. That's the money thing is above my pay grade, and I let other people do that. But Orioles and Pirates make a trade. Everyone's been kind of talking about that they would be kind of perfect matches with their hitting depth and the Pirates pitching depth. Patrick Riley goes to Baltimore. Billy Cook comes over from Baltimore. This one, hearing it at first kind of sucked because I was a big Patrick Riley guy. Thought it was good work the Pirates did with them. Showed some promise. And like I kind of think about it, like even without as good as he's kind of looked and that I've been impressed with, it's like I was still leaning towards him being a reliever long term.
Mm-hmm.
So like at that point, like it's probably another sell high on him. And the more I've looked at Billy Cook, there are some interesting things there with him. What is it? He had a 2020 season in Bowie last year. Stole 30 bases, 24 home runs. He's having a pretty good year in Norfolk. Exit velocity numbers aren't great. They all kind of grade out a little bit below average for it. But contact rate's solid. He actually, I don't know if it looks on him, but it was a pipeline has the 60 grade speed on him. So like, I think what will really put me over the edge of loving this is if like there's a shot that he can play center because he has 60 grade speed and a 60 grade arm. So if he can play center, like I think the Pirates are kind of cooking with this move. But he played mostly first base. I know outfield is a cluster out there in Norfolk. So
well, and I think that's kind of it seems like he was a little bit of a do everything kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly because, it's Baltimore and Norfolk, and they had far too many prospects, and they had spots really at that point.
Yeah. It's right here. Yeah, his zone contact rate's at 81.5%. He actually has a better zone contact rate against breaking and off-speed pitches than he did against fastballs. Although, generally speaking, he did better against fastballs, it looks like. Well, no, actually. So it looks like he's a fairly solid hitter. Like, contact rates are pretty good. The whiff and the swing, the whiff and the chase and all that, they're kind of borderline. It looks like. So like you probably don't want it going any higher than that. And I guess maybe in the majors that'd be something to watch to see if it kind of crosses over that threshold. He can elevate the ball really well. So and Pipeline did mention that like there's some raw power there. Like the exit velocity numbers don't really say that right now, but I don't know. How do you feel about it? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess kind of depending on how you look at it. I don't know. I mean, it felt like Riley was kind of like a rising prospect. I mean, moved up to 8th in Baseball America's rankings. Likely would have seen a jump in, Pipeline and Fangraphs, I imagine. And it's just Baltimore has such a glut of hitters. It felt kind of underwhelming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because we were discussing it, and it's you looked at his numbers from like 2023, and yeah, he popped over 20 home runs in the Eastern League, which not really an easy thing to do. It's not a big home run league,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you look at some of his numbers, like he was a 30% guy, so he kind of the numbers kind of looked like someone that you were like, oh, this is probably a power guy just because of high K home runs. But then we pulled up the TJ stats and it's like, whoa, kind of saying the other thing, where yeah, it seems like there's some average to slightly above average power there maybe, but it kind of told the story more of a contact guy. But
yeah. And it does look like the strikeout rate has dropped like as he's moved up the ladder. Like it was in the 30s in like the lower levels, and then it's creeped down a little bit as he's gone up. It's still kind of like borderline, kind of where you want to see, especially for a guy that's like he was older in Double A last year. He played 24 years old. So and then he started the year in Double A again this year. So I mean, it's like he's an older prospect and stuff like that. So,
but yeah, I mean, he's
technically carried it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's played everywhere, and yeah, seemingly could play center field, and maybe that was the draw. That he's, I mean, kind of similar to York, that he might be seen as someone that are like, get him an Indy, let him get his feet wet, and then call him up to the majors. So, I mean, unless this Michael A. Taylor power outburst continues, there might be
bad, but he's been bad. But I had a hard time believing that he was going to be that bad all season.
Yeah,
like I knew there's some regression that was going to happen from those 20 home runs he hit. I didn't think he was going to crater like this. So
like single digit.
Yeah, I feel like he was due for something. So, but yeah, that could be the draw on it. Like I said, you sell high on someone like Patrick Riley when you can, and especially when you feel comfortable with what you're able to do, like pitching development wise.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that they didn't have to touch any of the bigger names too in the system to make any of these trades. That also helps you feel more comfortable selling high on Patrick Riley. The fact that Barco and Harrington and Ashcraft, Bubba, all of them, they didn't touch him. Even like a Xander Beath or something like that, they didn't have to move him. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's kind of my overall look at it too. Is just that, I mean, they got better just by virtue of like you're saying, just replacement level over guys that were just really bad. Yeah. So, and sure, they traded a couple guys that were gaining hype, especially among us prospect huggers, but they still have all their top guys, and like me and one guy on Twitter, before starting this is just talking about because Thomas Harrington was promoted to Indy. So, I mean, Ashcraft, Harrington, Bubba, Barco probably at some point. Burrows is back. Like,
yeah,
come the off season, I mean, I won't be surprised if a team or teams come calling to try and grab one.
Yeah, I think the offseason, if you want to move one of those guys, I think the offseason is the best time to do that, anyways.
Yeah,
it gives you more time to kind of do that, and then everyone has a chance to get healthy. Because Barco's out with the injury right now. Burrows is working his way back from TJ. Ashcraft is out, so it gives them a chance to kind of reevaluate where they're at and stuff like that.
Or you could try and, I mean, maybe they want to move one of Ortiz or Falter. Too.
I think Ortiz would be a good sell high candidate right now. Well, not right now because the deadline's over, but
right.
if he closes out the year strong, like right. I think he'd be an interesting guy to sell high on.
Yeah. So there's probably not this deadline, although I don't know, kind of underwhelming to me.
Yeah.
They should hang in the wild card race. They probably for the rest of the season, presuming nothing drastically bad goes wrong. Yeah. But I mean, Jones will be back at some point. Gonzalez will be back at some point. They'll have a lot more options come the offseason with a stable of pitching prospects and the ability to move a big league starter to someone in desperate need of one.
Yeah.
Maybe then we can finally get Kobe Mayo from Baltimore who refuses to promote him.
That's such an insane story. Like there's got to be more than that because there's got to be more to that as to why
everyone's gotten promoted. It feels like him.
They're bringing everyone up except him. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, you have any other thoughts on everything as a whole?
It's gonna make watching the middle levels a lot tougher.
I mean, it wasn't already the easiest thing to do it sometimes. Actually, although it does make Indy a little more interesting, I feel like for me, especially if some of the pitchers start getting moved up too. I'll be interested to see Billy Cook and Nick York play a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Ashcraft comes back soon, which I feel like it's been about a week now since someone said he was 7 to 10 days away.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say that. So hopefully we're close to that.
Harrington's up. Hopefully Bubba's next.
Yep. Bubba shouldn't be too far behind.
I know. What was it? Barco's dad. I'm assuming that was his dad.
Yeah.
Made that comment that it was a shin issue. Hopefully that's not too concerning. So.
Yeah, he did say he did say something along the lines like hopefully he gets a couple more in by the end of the year. So it does feel like maybe we won't see him for a little bit on there. Although there's not that much time left in the season, really. We're about to hit August, so like a month and a half left on everything.
Yeah.
So so like the deadline was, I guess, a little underwhelming. I like that they didn't have to give up anything important. They did improve technically by default, like I've said a couple times. I just wonder if it's going to be enough to compete with the other teams out there, especially with some of the moves some of the other teams have made. Granted, with the way that the pitching is, they may not need to do too much. This may be the perfect amount they need, especially if they get Jared Jones and back healthy and he's pitching like he was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Rolling out that 5-man rotation right now, this could be all they need. But if you're only just looking at it position by position, they upgraded marginally. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
I'll give him a soft C.
Do what?
I give him a soft C.
I don't even want to try to grade it. I mean,
Yeah,
C.
that's me being nice.
Yeah, a C is fine. A C still gives them the potential of making the wild card. I feel like, so I think a C is fine. So,
Well, and I think once like Cook and York we get some eyes at them. We see what's happening with IKF,
yeah.
who is just returning from injury, and BDLC. Once they start getting the games, it could go either way.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I'll hold reservation for grading it until like we actually see some of these guys in action. So,
yeah.
But I think we talked about before the show, see if we could try to do this in like a half hour or so, and we kind of doubled that here, so as expected.
Whoops.
But that's gonna do it for us tonight. Thanks everyone for listening in. Nola, go ahead and give out your socials and any Nola knowledge, I guess, if you have it.
At Nola Jeffy, NOLAJEFFY. I guess my Nola knowledge would be about. Have you ever heard about Point Roberts?
Point Roberts? No.
So it's covers the 40th or 49th parallel. But so the line that cuts across the United States, right? And it goes right across the top of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a peninsula. But, there's water that goes above the parallel. So this little like peninsula is still Washington, but the only way to get there is between private plane, or you have to go drive into Canada and loop around back into the U.S. to get there.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, we went there for a day. It's really nice there, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Before going to Vancouver.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, well, you can follow me on Twitter at @double_Murphy88. Subscribe to Bucks on Deck. I'll have like a video breakdown of Nick York probably Thursday. I'll probably see if I can put something together of Billy Cook as well. Get some video of him and
more Mitch Jeb talk.
Yeah, Mitch Jeb talk. Come to Bucks on Deck. Mitch Jeb talk. Don't stop. I don't get interrupted on it like I do on Starbucks.
Hey, well, I don't know about after today, but I think his WRC Plus finally got above 100.
Boom. Let's go. All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Deuces.